Tonight, we voyage into a realm where compasses spin wildly and the sea swallows secrets. The enigmatic Bermuda Triangle. Imagine an expanse of ocean where air and water blur, where many have ventured, but not all have returned. Here, stories aren't just told, they're lost and sometimes, eerily, found again. In the midst of this watery labyrinth, a tale of disappearance that touches the heart of a family draped in wealth and mystery. Our guest tonight will share a chilling personal narrative that may leave us questioning more than just the fate of those who vanish. So pour yourself a shadow laced libation and settle in for an evening of cocktails and conspiracies. Remember, in the world of the unexplained and the eerie, we're not just listeners or tellers. We are the conspiracy realists. As always, my name is Shane Squark. I'm joined here by my co-host, Mr. Phillips. And I
Hi, buddy.
promised you, Tim, that I'm going to keep getting louder and louder each time until we hit our pitch that we're always looking for. Our
I want
guest tonight,
I want
go
one
ahead.
episode of you doing nothing but a Mr. Phillips for 27 minutes straight.
I don't think I can quite hit the 27 minutes, but I
You
do
can
have
do it.
AI that can probably do it for me.
I have faith. You can do it.
Tonight, we are joined by Vicky Sue, who is
Hi
joining us to tell us
there.
a tale of a family member of yours who disappeared in the conspiracy of the Bermuda Triangle. Vicky, welcome to the Conspiracy Realist.
Thank you. Thank
So, a
you.
little bit of background here. Vicky actually works with me and works on the Conspiracy Realist website and has been actually championing a lot of the stories in the background. So, she's kind of the woman behind the scenes that's kind of gotten us to this point for launch. Tell us a little about your background behind the Conspiracy Realist before that and kind of what brought you here to us tonight.
Well, I think I started liking all this paranormal stuff and conspiracies and with my aunt. She was a big fan of investigating stuff that didn't have so much explanation, and that's what exactly happened with my mom and my aunt first cousin, that their plane disappeared, and that's pretty much it. But the story is like has more details, of course, but just vanished.
Mhm.
There were no remains found, no human remains, no plane remains, no nothing. It vanished.
Before we dive into the story about, I guess that would just be your. We'll just call him your cousin, just for I don't know how you would say your mother's cousin if, in like terms
Second
of family.
cousin, it would be here
Second
in
cousin.
Venezuela. Second cousin.
We'll work on. We'll do second cousin then too.
Okay,
Before we
my
dive into
second
that,
cousin.
if you thought back to your childhood, first conspiracy that hits you, what was it? What was the first one that kind of sucked you in?
I've always had like this thing for aliens and UFOs and stuff, and I've always believed. I don't I don't need any, how do you say it, explanation, logical explanation. I know the universe is vast. We cannot be the only ones.
I
So
would agree.
where it all started.
You
I
know,
think
when
you're
Having
I
in good
first heard
company.
about aliens, I was at my grandparents' house up in the mountains, and my older cousins were there, and we were sleeping over, right? My parents weren't there. And my older cousins told me about aliens and what they were. I was probably 5 years old. I'd never heard of it before. And, they told me that they can abduct you, or a spacecraft could land right here in the driveway, and aliens could come out. And it scared the living shit out of me to the point where I called my parents 3 hours away and wanted them to pick me up.
Oh, I was never a scary person. I don't get scared easily. So I was more like fascinated by all those conspiracies. I don't know. I
Mhm.
remember a web page that I used to check while my mom wasn't watching, called rotten.com. And I was
Oh, I remember
like,
Rotten. Yeah.
everyone remembers
Oh, baby.
rotten.com.
If you were on the internet in the late 90s, Rotten.com was the place to be.
And I was like, what if they are alive? What if someone of these people is alive? I don't know. I was always some kind of
hmm
an inspector. I love doing like Sherlock Holmes work.
Yeah. Well, that's a journalism coming out in you too, right? The
Well,
journalist, I should say.
yeah,
Coming out.
I'm
Yeah,
actually a journalist. Yeah.
yeah. That's why it adds up. So give us some context here. What was your first experience to the Bermuda Triangle? Was it, just because you heard about this like long lost kind of hidden family secret, or had heard about the Bermuda Triangle mysteries kind of before that, before sort of unlocking this mystery?
I've been hearing about the Bermuda Triangle since I was born because the accident or the disappearance was
Hmm.
the year I was born. I was born in April, and the disappearance went on, I think, October 12th, 1983. It was the same year I was born.
That's
So I,
actually the disappearance was October 12th, 1983.
uh-huh.
Oh wow, okay.
So I've always grew up, and that was mentioned between my mom and her sisters. That was always like a theme of conversation, a topic of to talk about during meetings. Whoa, Gonzalo and Beatriz, they disappeared, remember, blah blah blah. And it plants a seed on you. You want to know what actually happened. You want to deep dive.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Especially, I mean, it's any kind of disappearance, especially one involving the Bermuda Triangle, is it sparks intrigue in a lot of people, but especially when it's somebody that's related to you, an actual family member, I can imagine that makes it, or kind of increases that tenfold.
Well, the rest of their kids, they denied their death because since no remains were found, they cannot psychologically cannot close the cycle, and they were like expecting them 20 years later or something. It was super super horrible.
Right. So like tough for them to actually get closure.
And also my one of my aunts, she passed away. I think she had psychic powers or something because she could see things. And I remember she telling them to my other aunts or my uncles, whatever thing it was, going to happen, and it happened.
In
I don't
advance
have a
of him actually
response for
going.
that. Oh,
In advance of him actually going.
yeah. And
Ooh.
it happened many times. And she said, they won't find anything. They won't find anything. They won't find, and no, nothing. No, what, no one, nothing was found. And she also kind of predicted the day of the death of one of her cousins. The
Wow,
exact
wow.
day. He had a car accident. He was competing in here in, I don't know what kind of event was that, but
Mhm.
he didn't have the like the preparation, the proper preparation. So he hit the car, and the car went on in flames, and he eventually died. But my aunt, I remember, she said the exact date, and that was also a common topic
That's wild.
when were family reunions and such things. So I've always feel like very into paranormal stuff. You name it, aliens, phantoms, energy, whatever unexplainable thing.
So I want to take us back to the Bermuda Triangle. Uh,
Mhm.
I mean, at this point, I think everyone that would be listening to this is going to be familiar with what the Bermuda Triangle is. I can't even speak. Just to give a little bit of context, because I like to make sure that the people that are just kind of getting exposed to this, maybe you're a little younger, maybe you're a little older, and just never really dove into this stuff before. Super cloaked in mystery, and nobody really knows how to define it. So it's kind of like a loosely defined region in the Atlantic Ocean. It's between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. And
Mhm.
Josh, can you pull up the map? We're gonna go ahead and see if we can just pull up a quick map here. I'm gonna
We
see if I
fired
can
Jamie
do
already?
it. What's that?
We fired Jamie, we got a Josh. That was
Yeah,
quick, man.
I'm too Jimmy Church, man. It's just Josh is on Jimmy Church. That's what I got there. So I've got Google Maps up here, and you can see any of these maps. That's generally where it is. I'll see opening it up too much is going to actually kind of screw me up there. Let me just bring out the screen a little bigger. So kind of like you could see these maps, even they're just a little bit stretched out all over the place. But for the most part, Miami, Puerto Rico, Bermuda. That's effectively where we're looking at.
Really?
And I mean, I guess I don't know what the initial incident was, but for sure
I
during
know.
like the 50s and 60s,
I know.
and I think even as early as the 40s, you know what the initial incident was?
So there's speculation that it actually goes back to Christopher Columbus. So
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
so without diving too deep into that, right? Although it is relevant since we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle, Christopher Columbus reportedly, and look, some folks will tell you this is bullshit, this didn't happen. Other folks will tell you it's actually written in his journal, so take that with whatever size grain of salt you'd like. But apparently, he was at some point near and or passing through the Bermuda Triangle, and he had issues with his compasses.
Hmm,
Was unable to navigate, and also reported seeing strange lights on the horizon. Those were the three things that he had actually written down in his journal. So
that's
what's
insane.
fascinating is the story dates all the way back to Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, I mean
Whoa.
the early things that I saw. I mean, you get a couple like Navy ships in the early 1900s, but for the most part, it was all the 40s and the 50s, 60s. That era is the jump off point. So that's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
That we got something from
Yeah, I
Columbus
thought
there.
it was like
Yep.
1913
Goes
the
all the way
first,
back there.
but it goes back to Christopher Columbus. Whoa.
Wow.
Now
Yeah.
again, it's if you listen to different people and read different accounts,
Of course.
some people will tell you that he did not say that, others will. I think it's just as mysterious as the whole Bermuda Triangle in and of itself. Why not
Right.
add some more mystique to it? Let's roll with that
I'll
story. I
take it.
like it.
I'll take it. Yeah. There's a lot of mystique about Columbus in and of himself. So just kind of adding that little wrinkle in there is pretty
Why
cool
not?
to me. So basically, what was happening is all sorts of different things. Tim kind of hit on it. Compasses would spin and kind of crazy. Even modern day tools, when you go through that area, there's some sort of like a
Yeah.
magnetic pull or something that's spinning all of their dials out of whack. It's spinning their navigational controls. It's screwing them up. It's killing radio signals. And so you started to see a lot of ships disappear, a lot of planes disappear, and by result of that, people disappearing. Uh, there's any number of actual explanations, geographical reasons, right? So it's a very trafficked
Yeah.
area. There are people that travel through it. It's not when you go through it, you just disappear automatically. It's not a default. Uh,
Yeah, I know people that has gone through the Bermuda
yeah,
It's
Triangle.
a
I mean,
heavily
it's
trafficked area, right? Exactly.
happening all the time. Right. Of course, there's that, mystique around it, but a lot of people just say, because there's so much traffic going through there, that it's just inevitable that there's going to be a higher likelihood of people getting lost. And that's why you're hearing about it. Whether or not you want to believe that,
yeah, but back in 1913 or something, I don't think that was a heavily
probably not as
trafficked
much. Right.
area.
Right. There's some speculation about methane hydrates. So basically, methane gas eruptions are shooting up out of
Yeah.
the bottom of the ocean, maybe knocking the plane out of the
I've heard
sky, or
something about electromagnetic fields or
that's
something.
that's
I think
another
there's
piece.
something in the United States that when you go, your watch stops and your mobile phone just
You
goes
lose like
off.
cell signal. Yeah, the cell ones are always hard
Yeah.
for me to wrap my head around in terms of the fact of like believing that that's the excuse. You get up on an airplane anywhere in the United States, your cell phone stops working, right? Like you're just
Yeah.
out of the range of the signal. Satellites and stuff, a lot of that works based on like a network of towers. Like, of course, yeah, you're shooting up in the sky to a satellite, but you put a direct TV on your roof. Are you getting video or internet or TV all the time? Well, no, there's other facets of that help power that. So I've never really bought into those theories in so much. But the magnetic fields are interesting because that impacts like your old analog controls, all the dials.
Of course.
Right.
Right.
And so that's what's always intrigued me and drew me into it is just the magnetic fields. So if you think about that, and maybe it's just the earth, right? Maybe the earth is just more magnetized in that area and it's just tilting your compass off. And that's one of the other theories is it could just be a natural occurrence and the compass just spins off the wrong direction and they honestly just get lost at sea. Whether it's a plane and they run out of fuel and nosedive into the ocean, whether it's a
Yeah,
boat.
but it's super off when nothing comes up.
Well, that becomes the conspiracy,
Right.
right? And so you are the crutch of the Bermuda Triangle is really dead ocean. Like it's just a big, vast sea of there's nothing. I mean, when you think Miami to Puerto
Exactly.
Rico to Bermuda, it doesn't sound like it that far when you look at the map. But if you actually like,
No, it's pretty close.
it does look pretty close, but that's a lot of ocean. So I'm gonna actually see if I can pull up a full Google map and let's see what. while we do that, I'm not sharing my screen yet. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up on an actual map here. Yeah, I can.
It's a significant area, but what I say is like not crossing the not like crossing the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean.
Right. I mean, you're not traversing an
Scared of the
entire ocean.
Pacific.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You're not, but let's take a look here. Okay, we see the map. All right, so we've got Bermuda all the way up top. We've
Uh-huh.
got Miami all the way down here, and we've got Puerto Rico kind of right down here. So Miami to Puerto Rico really isn't that far, but look where Bermuda is, right? So I'm just going to bring up our satellite view. That's a lot of blue right there. And
And
that's
it's
just from a really high
deep.
point. Let's just get down to like ground level now, right? I mean, this is just ocean forever.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
There's a lot of emptiness. So if something were to happen and you were to get knocked off course for some magnetic shift or something in that area, to me, it's not that unlikely that you could get lost in this area, maybe spinning in a circle for a little while, and then you lose sight of something, especially in the earlier days. There's no like little islands, like all these little islands like Turks, like they're still, if you're running from Miami to Puerto Rico, yeah, of course you can find something, you can see land. But if you're between Bermuda and really anything in the Caribbean here, there's nothing. I mean, there's not even like a shred of a piece of land anywhere here. It's just blank canvas. So
And your
Yeah.
compass isn't
um
working
well,
if
that's
you're
it. And
there.
that's why I think the idea that it's not necessarily a mystery and it's just some sort of like a natural occurrence isn't lost to me. Like, I don't think that that's out of the question. I don't think we could rule that out.
Especially when you
Um,
take into account some of these events happened in the 30s, the 40s, right? Even the
mhm.
60s. Let's be realistic, right? In the
Not at
60s, they didn't
all.
have the technological capabilities that we have in 2024.
Right.
So, you know, what
Yeah.
abilities did they have to, ask for, I should say ask for help, right? But to send out a mayday signal, or, once they did realize they went missing, right? There was the manpower. It's not the same as it was today, right? It would be easier to find somebody today than it was in
Presumably.
1945. I mean,
Mhm.
Okay.
So let's jump back to your story then, Vicky. Your
Okay.
second cousin gets lost in the Bermuda
Yeah.
Triangle. Let's start from the top. This second cousin, give us some like context. Is this guy like an explorer? Is he like a modern day um
He was a lawyer,
he's a
but
lawyer?
they were
Okay.
very wealthy, so they
Okay.
had their own planes, so they just go back and forth Miami and Caracas back in the day.
Oh, so he was
They had
flying
like eight.
regularly along this route.
Yeah, they used to go and come frequently. They had
Wow.
eight
So,
kids and what? Sorry.
no, I was going to say, going on that plane theory or that plane flight, if it's the first time he goes out there and he gets lost at sea, total sense,
Oh no,
probably lost. But this is like a
no, not
regular
at all.
occurrence for him to go. He knows the
It
route.
was his own plane. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was his own
right. So we're
plane.
talking about somebody that knew how to fly, who made this trip frequently, was well versed in the
Yeah,
route. This wasn't something new to him.
no, not at all. They were with two of their eight children.
Hmm.
I don't. I couldn't get the name of the deceased
Hmm.
kids, but the names of their parents were Gonzalo Fernandez Singh and Beatriz Tinoco Lemoa. They were a couple with their two kids, and when they were coming back to Caracas, they allegedly, that's what my aunt said, they tried to contact because they were losing control over the radio and all sorts of things, but the communication was very poor. I think it was like a bad connection.
So time out.
And uh-huh,
As they're flying, they notice that their connection is dropping. They're losing
there's
control.
something off with the plane because they wanted
And they're
to.
radioing somebody. Somebody's on the other end hearing this.
Yeah, in Aruba.
In
In
Aruba.
Aruba?
They try to call Cuba, they try to reach someone, but they could reach someone in Aruba. But the main thing is they were like avoiding a storm that was going over Cuba and all that zone, and they briefly entered the Bermuda Triangle. That's when they lost all control.
Interesting.
They started to call. They contacted Aruba. They never landed there. They never got it there.
Did
The government, and they were, as I said, very wealthy people. It was more than a year of looking and looking and looking up and searching for bodies because 404 people just float, and eventually, and there was nothing found. Not the plane, not the family, no, nothing.
was Aruba able to, I guess, like ping where their location was when they were calling? Like they have like a general idea where that might have been?
Yeah, but that's like sealed documents.
Is there a reason to
They
steal?
were, I don't know. Maybe the family paid to have all those records sealed. I'm not sure. I know that part of my family used to be very powerful back in the day.
Mm. This might open up a new conspiracy, Vicky. I don't know if it's
I
just
was gonna say
a
we're
Bermuda
building a
Oh, I have
rocket
a
Triangle
I have a
conspiracy here.
conspiracy.
bunch. I have a bunch. I have
So
a bunch.
it was Gonzalo Fernandez, and what was the last name?
Sing, Zingg.
Fernandez, Zingg, Zing,
Uh-huh.
Zing, 1939 to 1983, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I mean,
October 12th, right?
what's that? October 12th,
October 12th,
1983. Yep, yep,
1983.
yep. I found him on like a
Yeah.
genealogy website. This is interesting. So,
Yeah, and there's this there are a few pages that talk about missing planes,
hmm,
and they're not all in Spanish, but they sort of say like went over Cuba, disappeared on the sea. This one and others don't say nothing. They have zero info.
it's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, this one
So
that I
it's
found just
it's
says
like,
that death, October 12th, 1983, at 44 years old, 152 miles, Aruba. So literally 152 miles off the coast of Aruba is what I'm assuming that they're saying.
Maybe that was like the last radio signal as to where they were.
Right,
last
right, 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 right.
moment they had contact, but they
Okay.
never reached Aruba.
Well, yeah, if they were that far off. So Puerto Rico. So that's strange. I wonder like what the distance would be between like Puerto Rico and like Aruba or how that would even happen, you know? Like where would they have gone down?
I don't know why they ask because Aruba is super close to Caracas. Super
Right.
close.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do
So
distances
there's
on
kind of
maps.
a mystery there why they asked. They were genuinely preoccupied. They had to land. They had some problems with the plane, and they only could contact Aruba. So it was like they never landed there. All the correct me if I might mispronounce it. Antilles, Antilles,
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it sounds.
Aruba,
I think I know what
Curacao,
you're
and
talking about.
Bonaire.
Let's see.
In Spanish is Las Antillas. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire. Those are from like Netherlands
Okay.
government, and they all did the best they could. They were, as I said, they were moved by money. So they did research. They until there was nothing to look for. It was years.
Yeah, it's fascinating because you look at where Aruba is, and I'll pull up the map again over here. I really love the map now, huh? Gosh, I'm gonna have to do my own mapping here.
You're a map guy, dude.
Puerto Rico. Josh, can you pull up the map? It's every episode.
Fucking Josh.
So you look at where Caracas is, right? Venezuela, and you look at where Aruba is, right there. And I tried to map it to Puerto Rico. It didn't give me a mileage right here. It's just telling me how much it's going to cost to go there, unfortunately. But I think that's out of the question for today, especially given the context of our discussion. But I did put this in Chat GPT to ask what the mileage would be from here to here. It says about 500 miles. So, cut that in half. It's about 250, maybe about where this marker is. 150, 125 would put us kind of right here if you go by, Aruba. And if you kind of scale that out, it almost looks like he's at Caracas. So now whatever I'm finding online that's saying 152 miles Aruba doesn't necessarily mean that's where he died or where his plane went down. But for him to have contacted
Yeah.
Aruba, he had to have kind of been in this general area here, right? Like, why would he have not contacted Puerto Rico? Bermuda Triangle kind of lives up in this area, right? Strange.
Because I don't know if Puerto Rico, but they have to flew over Cuba, and I don't know why
Oh,
they
so maybe
didn't
they went
contact.
right
I think
around the right
there was
side instead of
this
the
storm
side.
thing that my aunt told me that they they went over,
Right.
like they tried to went from Miami over, get
I just shut the map down.
the line that goes from
Right.
Miami to Puerto
Right. Right.
Rico.
Right.
They got in that small area, and then I guess their controls failed and they couldn't contact no one in Puerto Rico. Maybe the unique answer they had was in
Mhm.
Aruba. I don't know. It's,
So the
as
only
I
person that
told you,
picked up the
it's like
phone,
a
yeah.
mystery. And they are all mostly 404. They're, so I can't ask like anyone
So
firsthand.
I'm wondering, in the United States, there's something called the Freedom of Information Act, which allows you as a citizen to write into the government and ask to, for lack of a better word, subpoena specific documents or materials related to something. It could be a bill, it could be a case, it could be the mention of somebody in a government document. And you're right, as a United States citizen, actually, they would give you that. Now, they can cross out information that they deem a national security risk, and that's
They
why a lot
often
of the
do.
times we see they often do, right? All the really big conspiracies, you're going to see that. When you're looking for something local like minutes, you can get that stuff pretty easy.
Yeah.
So in a quick search here, I typed in how would you get Mayday call recordings from a specific location like Aruba, for any sort of like aviation incidents or maritime incidents, airplanes or ships. And it does seem like they do have something similar, like a freedom of information request, depending on the jurisdiction and governance.
Oh,
Now, none of us are Aruban citizens, so I don't know if that would qualify for us. But for your own sake, the 80s isn't that far off. Where, like, if this was like the 50s or 60s, maybe they would say, like, we probably didn't record it, or we didn't record anything, we didn't log anything, or we tossed it. Maybe that's still the case, but 80s isn't that far off. So maybe it's something where, like, you can talk to somebody there and just say, I'm a descendant of
oh, that would
Gonzalo.
be
Yeah,
awesome.
and like just see what they say. The people that were paid off, if that was the case, or the people that shut their mouths about it, maybe they're kind of out of the picture now. Maybe the next person doesn't know. Maybe they're just naive to it. Maybe
Right.
there's a stamp in the file that says, do not open this thing, burn it to the ground. Don't know. But that might just be a path to go down. And, I mean, Aruba's primarily English speaking there anyway, but
Maybe.
find somebody that maybe speaks Spanish or is a little more local there that you can kind of connect with on a local plane. And I don't know, maybe that's an option to dig down deeper and see what's there. I don't know. Not
Dude, you
something we
know
could
what I
do
just
right now
what I
live,
just
but
thought of, and this is something we could talk about. Like, I don't want to deviate from Vicky's story because I think we still have more to unpack
I
with it.
lost you.
But you mentioned something about Cuba that kind of sparked something in my brain, and I want to take a look at the map again when we have a second to see
Okay.
how much people would be flying close and or maybe over Cuba. And I'm just kind of
okay.
thinking about our relations with Cuba between the 60s and the 80s when it was very tense, right? And not that it's not now, but it was
Mm.
very much so more then.
Oh.
And just popped in my brain like, could that have affected, right? Maybe some flights going down.
Yeah, because I looked up flying routes, but I didn't have that in mind. How were the relationships with Cuba
Right.
back in the day? Mm.
That's pretty interesting, actually, Tim. So I mean, you're looking
It
at
could be
Miami,
bullshit. I have
Bermuda.
no idea, but I mean,
No, that's a very good point. So you got Bahamas, or I'm sorry, Miami to Puerto Rico to Bermuda. So there's basically your Bermuda Triangle.
uh-huh.
I mean, I guess it would depend on where the flights are going down. Like when I think the Bermuda Triangle, I always thought more up by the Bermuda side up here, and that
Right.
would eliminate your thought there. But
And
most
I know we have a
travel,
lot more going on in the triangle other than just flights. The
right?
flights to me, and we kind
There
of
are
talked
also
about this,
ships.
I always find those to be a little bit more odd. Although I guess really not. I mean, weather is going to impact the flight as it's going to impact the ship the same, not the
Probably
same way,
more
but
so.
it's
Probably more so,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
because you can send that off course pretty quickly. And if you run out of gas, I mean, if you're going to run out of gas on a ship, right, you can kind of float there for a little
Right, you're
while.
going
You
to
run out of
float
gas,
exactly.
you're
You're not going to plummet into the
going under.
sea.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's totally plausible that flights from Miami to Puerto Rico or really anywhere in the Bahamas could have just been kind of shot out of the sky by Cuba,
Yeah,
particularly in this like area by Turks. Now, people would probably see it, but you got to assume that maybe Cuba has like a navy or something. Maybe they float their ships out a little further off. Maybe there's other activity over there. I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thought,
yeah.
huh? Let's
True.
dive back into your story though, Vicky. So we hear that he's gone at this point. What's your family's trying to figure out as much information as they possibly can? It sounds like generally they don't. Fast
They
forward to
did back in the
today. I
day,
know kind
but
of
not right now.
they talked about it back in the
I
day.
guess I was too little.
So for some reason they stopped. That's what you're saying.
I think they stopped when they weren't getting any results. They didn't find not even nothing. Not a piece of the plane, maybe a piece of metal.
Right.
Nothing. And it was like, how come? How come something and four people can disappear out of the blue, like just like that? Poof, you're not longer here. So I've even thought that maybe that's a portal.
That's a theory that's certainly floated around that it's well, it's a couple theories, right? So there's the theory of a portal to another world, another dimension, another something else, right?
Maybe.
There's also like a time travel element that's been kind of wrapped in that too. Is like maybe it's like a time rift where you're jumping back and forth. That takes us into a super paranormal space.
yeah.
Um, I don't. I came into this one today intentionally not doing a whole ton of research outside of like what I knew off the cuff on Bermuda Triangle.
Nightmare.
In part because I want to be able to kind of to riff off of everyone like this. Tim, spiritually,
Okay, got your
mystically,
back.
Hmm.
what do you think the plausibility of something like that is?
Could you repeat? I
What do I think
lost
the
you. I
what?
didn't have like I live in
Yeah,
Venezuela. My connection is like
All
not
good.
a worries, not a worries. Um, so spiritually or mystically, the plausibility of it being a portal or some sort of a rift into somewhere else in time. I threw it at Tim, and then Vicky, I'm going to turn it right to you afterwards.
I mean, it's fun to think about. It would probably be the most exciting explanation and one that I would hope would be true. I think realistically, when you look at the facts, it's probably not the case. I think it's very low that it's something like that. I think it's more likely that there is some sort of physical anomaly, excuse me, that has to do with the Earth in that location that's causing these bizarre, disappearances, if you will.
Right.
Um, what I find odd about this whole thing, though, is the complete disappearances. Right?
same.
It's the ships that completely disappear. It's the planes that completely disappear. If you were telling me that they were just wrecking, okay, that there were maritime disasters and ships sank, and not that they don't. I mean, we do have records that that planes go down and that ships do go down, and they do find wreckage in the Bermuda Triangle. It's not like every disaster that occurs there is the same. It's not like we can't find anything ever. But the ones where we don't find anything are the ones that intrigue me a little bit more.
Same.
Um, Again, having said that, though, I do still think that the odds are pretty low that it's going to be a really fun explanation.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same in the bottom of my heart, but it would be super awesome.
What do you think, Vicky, happened to your second cousin here If you had to put a finger on it based on the hearing the rumblings of your family and all just like the secrecy and the privacy around them trying to talk about it
I think they
now,
were
you have your own
abducted.
suspicion? Abducted
I don't
by
know.
other
Yeah,
people?
I don't know. I don't know. It also raised some suspicion on me. I get suspicious about it. Why keep it hidden? Why not talk
Hmm.
about it? I don't
That's the
know.
weird
It's the
part.
weird part. And since there was nothing to hide because nothing was found, you cannot say,
It's the perfect crime, right?
yeah, it's like,
Right. Now, you said previously, I guess it was Oma, had a little bit of a premonition prior to the flight, right?
all of the people, well, this is how do you say it, recurrent in my family,
Hmm.
like
Recent?
since forever.
Okay.
My mom's brother wasn't supposed to take a plane back in the day. That was an accident in Los Andes, not the one of the rugby team, but another one. And he traded tickets with another student so he could be here in Caracas for his brother's birthday. And I remember my mom told me that my grandmom told him to not get in that plane, to not get in that plane, please don't get in that plane. And the plane crashed. No survivors.
My goodness. Okay. Well, I mean, I was basically gonna ask, do you think that she issued that initial warning because she had heard about the Bermuda Triangle, she knew the
No,
flight path, and was
I
just suspicious, maybe
swear,
she was a little
I swear
edgy?
like the older sister of my mom, my aunt, my older aunt,
Hmm.
I swear she had powers. I swear it.
Wow.
Yeah.
She put on the date when my second cousin was going to die, and he died that day. And there was that,
Jeez.
I remember there was something that happened because I was, little kids don't listen to adults' conversations. But I've
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
been like here and there and overhearing. I love that.
Sure.
I love gossip. And I realized she knew something, she saw something. And that moment, immediately, I was like 10, I don't know, maybe 9. She said that she wasn't going to do it anymore. She got scared as hell and she didn't do it anymore. So, yeah, I don't know. I think she was a witch or something.
So she had multiple premonitions
Yeah, a
of the
lot, a
deaths of
lot.
multiple family
And
members.
she said that she could see and feel energies or whatever thing it was.
Is she still with us today?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say no. I don't want to know if she knows anything about me.
Well, she was super super hostile. We didn't get along too well. And I think all that she saw during her life made her bitter. I couldn't live with all that knowledge, knowing when someone's going to die or anything. I couldn't live with
Right.
that.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
you
heavy.
nailed it.
Yeah, that's a heavy burden to hold, right?
I remember the day she said, like, I'm not doing this anymore. Sorry.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. I was listening to a local radio show. Shout out to New Jersey 101.5. Um,
Ding!
Deminsky and Doyle the other night. They were talking about there was recently an accident on a main highway here in New Jersey, and a woman who worked at the toll booth where the accident occurred was supposed to go to work that day and just kind of had this feeling that something bad was going to happen, so she didn't go to work. Long story short, had she gone to work, she might have actually she would have been there, could have been killed. So they were doing this whole segment on kind of premonitions, and they were talking. I don't remember the specifics of it. It's not very important. Point is, they were talking about somebody else who had premonitions, and specifically around the deaths of other people. And they asked that person, like, "Hey, do you feel guilty not, kind of giving these people a heads up that, hey, you're going to get into this accident today. Don't go and do this. And this person said, no, I don't feel guilty because it would have happened anyway. There's nothing that I could have done that could have prevented it. I just knew that it was going to happen.
Oh.
So, Vicky, to your point, maybe this
Ish.
person, your
Uh-huh.
aunt, had these premonitions and knew that there was nothing that she could do about it, nothing that she could say or do or warn
Probably.
the person. It was inevitable. It was going to happen anyway, and that could weigh on a person.
You're not going to
I think
believe
that's
me,
it.
but I think it runs in the family because I have like my little daughter Matilda. She's 7 now, and she recognizes people from pictures that passed away 10, 20 years ago. And she was asking to me what I was researching, what I was doing my research on. I was looking for information on the accident, about the accident of Bermuda Triangle, see some if something was found ever. And she was like standing by me and she asked, "Are you looking for those uncle and aunt of yours?" And I was like, "Ours, since they were very much older than me, I called them my aunt and uncle. All of
Hmm.
them, although I didn't meet them, but all of their siblings are my aunts and uncles." And oh, I lost connection, but let me know if I keep going. Did you lose me?
That's a really long pause there.
Have you lost me?
I was trying to stay quiet. That way, if you wanted to cut
Okay.
it,
No, I just cut it. Yeah, there you
Uh
are,
huh.
Vicky. You go ahead. It records locally and uploads, so it records everything you say. So go ahead. She said you were researching,
And Matilda was
and she said, "Is
asking
that
me
the
about it, and she doesn't even know what Bermuda Triangle is. So she
yeah,
was like, "You're doing that research on your aunt and uncle and the plane accident," and I was like, "The fuck? What are you asking? What are you asking, girl?" And she's done it plenty, plenty of times.
I got to tell you, it's by the time this airs, this will be episode 6, or I guess technically episode 7 because episode 100 was the first one. So of those, this is the third or fourth so far that we have had this discussion about children and their ability to see things, to have premonitions, to connect with people of the past, the planes. I mean, I've used my own children as an example. Tim has used his own children as an example. We had a guest that's in a 2-part episode that'll actually air right before this one in both parts, Vicky, that talked about how their children had those same premonitions. And then
Oh,
so it's so funny that in there's larger conspiracies, right? That things they put in the water, things they feed you, and stuff actually suppresses a lot of these abilities, and that's why they kind of disappear as you get older. Your imagination sort of disappears a little bit too, but you hear it all the time, and it's wild how
it's
that seems
wild.
to
I
be a
have
recurring
I
theme.
I do
yeah.
I say, "Look, Matilda, guess the color I'm thinking of." She guessed 15 in a row. And I told Ariana, my older
Unbelievable.
daughter, to
It really
I
is.
told her the color so
Um,
it wasn't like cheating.
well, I'm just going
And
to have to cut right
Matilda
here. Well, I'm just going
guessed
to trim because we got a hard loss on Vicky
did
there.
it 15
Yeah, it's all
times in
good.
a row.
I'm guessing she said 15 times in a row,
Did you
though.
hear anything?
We said guess the color,
Okay.
and then you cut us out. So
Matilda could guess 15 colors in a row, and I told the color to Ariana so you could see we weren't cheating. And she guessed 50. I
Right.
cannot do that with Ariana. Even when I could do it
so
once, she once had a seizure and I couldn't do it anymore. But I do it with Matilda and it's seamless.
That's wild.
are you always telling Ariana when you try to do it with Matilda?
Yeah, we try to do it. We try to reconnect that part that we had, and it hasn't been
Yeah.
possible.
Well, I know too that I've heard in the past, and I mean people that are close together, right? Like that spend a lot of time together, and especially siblings in that regard, but even like friends. You always notice how like you hear people say, "Oh yeah, I don't even have to like say like, what I'm thinking," like you know what I'm thinking, and like
Yeah.
you kind of play off each other. And I noticed that a lot growing up with my brother. Well, one of my brothers, my closest brothers, is that like we can often like it's almost like telepathically communicating, right? Like you think about
Yeah.
something and you pass it through to the other person. So I'm almost wondering that if you might actually be giving it away to Matilda by telling Ariana, right? So it's awkward, it's weird, but I remember doing card games growing up, and I used to tell people stare at the card and think about the number, and I could almost always guess it by just like looking at their eyes. I don't know why, but it was like really easy to pick that up.
I
So
think it's super
I think there's
possible. I
something to
think
be
it's
said about
something
that too.
that through the years it's been tried to be suppressed from the humans. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
another conspiracy theory that goes in my
Another
head
That's a whole.
episode.
Yeah.
frequently.
Yeah, yeah.
Kate, if
So
I
let's
said
bring.
I'm thinking of a movie, tell me what movie I'm thinking of. What would it be?
Are you talking to me?
It
Yeah.
not wouldn't be me.
If I had to guess, I think you're probably thinking of Shrek.
Bingo. See?
Yeah,
He's psychic.
I actually know him pretty well. He's a big Fiona fan. Um, I want to bring this all back. We kind of deviated off, but that's the fun of this stuff. We're allowed to deviate off. It's our show. Actually, literally everybody here are the three heads behind the Conspiracy Realist
Exactly.
website.
We could do
Podcast.
literally whatever we want right now.
Whatever
It
we
makes
want.
no difference.
There's nobody else to answer to but us.
Exactly.
For everybody that's watching out there, if you made it this point, these are the three people. We're all waving at you. Thank you. We appreciate it. But I do want to bring this back
Uh-huh.
to the Bermuda Triangle. Um, I mean, we specifically tried to hone in on your uncle in this story. Maybe another time we can go into some of the other variations of it. I was more curious. You said he had 8 children, two
Two
were
were
lost
lost,
with
yeah.
him. The other children, I assume, are
Some of
alive. Do
them
you have
are
any
alive and
contact with them?
some
Have you
of
ever tried
them
to reach out to
are
them?
not.
Oh,
There's
wow.
people in my
Okay. Well, that's
family,
unfortunate,
there's a
especially I would imagine they're
thing
young.
that people in my family tend to die young. Young,
Yeesh.
youngish.
So you got somebody with premonitions and people that have a lot of tragic accidents.
Oh, tragic
That's
accidents are
one end
like
of the spectrum of the
all over the
day. Yeesh.
history of my family.
So is it, if you don't have the premonitions, you have the tragic accidents? Is that how
I
it
have
works?
everything. I have a little bit of
Just you just
everything. I
don't know
have
what you thought?
psychics,
Uh,
witches, accidents. What I don't have is money.
uh,
You got a lot going on over
What
there,
I don't
Vicky.
have that they have is money.
oh, well, maybe one. Maybe there's something buried under the
Yeah, I hope
backyard for you
so. And I
there.
hope it's not a
Um,
person.
oh goodness, maybe it's the uncle. Have you ever tried? Have you ever
It's not a
tried to
it was
reach
there the
out?
whole time.
Have you ever tried to reach out to any of these other
Yeah,
cousins and
sure.
see,
I
what do
asked
you
my mom
know?
to write them because they're like more contemporary with her. She's 76.
Hmm.
Mhm.
They are older than me by a lot.
Sure.
So, but they never answered. They never answered their
Mm,
messages, their
that's sad.
calls, her calls, nothing. They didn't want to talk about
Wow,
it.
so weird. Oh, your
Yeah.
mom specifically asked about your
They
uncle,
asked the remaining
or
children,
about
not
your cousin,
children, but yeah, the remaining
right?
siblings.
Wow,
It's
that's
very
wild.
wild. And having in
Yeah.
mind that they spent a lot of money on independent searches once Aruba stopped helping, because Aruba helped a lot.
Right.
But there was a moment when it stopped. But they kept
Hmm.
Sure.
they kept doing these researches on their own because they have the money and the resources.
So
Yeah.
were they actually paying for ships to go out or for planes to
I don't
fly
know
and
exactly
actually
what
look
kind
for physical evidence?
of investigation they were doing. I don't know if it was with ships or anything, but
Sure.
yeah, they were
Regardless,
paying
anything
a
costs time and
lot of
money,
money to
so they
find them.
yeah. So they were putting in
Yeah,
effort,
and
yeah.
they nothing. And I'm telling you, the thing are were a powerful family here. They brought the first stairs, electrical stairs here. Escalator, I don't
Escalators.
know the name in English. Here to Venezuela.
How you do?
But yeah, it was like quite an important people. So having
I mean, given the context of who he was, in terms of his importance, in terms of the money and the financial backing that he had as a business mogul, I'm almost wondering if the conspiracy is less about the mystique of the Bermuda Triangle, and that just sort of became a backdrop of it, and maybe more about maybe it wasn't an accident
you
after all.
think
Maybe there was something intentional here, especially because when you tell me that he tried to put out a Mayday
that makes
call to all these
sense
different
because there's
right, like
shady people
it's
in this
strange
family.
that nobody would answer. Well, maybe not just the family, but maybe
Every
it's the
Everywhere.
family has its
Yeah.
shady
right,
people.
right. I
It
mean,
could have been a business partner or, whomever.
it could have been a competitor. Like we talked a couple
That's
episodes
a good
ago about the
point.
Titanic and the Federal Reserve and the era of the Titanic. It was about to set sail, and the Federal Reserve was really heavily being talked about. There's a lot of opponents to it, and many of the biggest opponents of the Federal Reserve were on the Titanic when it crashed. And so the conspiracy within there, for those that didn't watch the episode, do go back and watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/ at conspiracy realist, like and subscribe. But the conspiracy there is that maybe the Titanic was intentionally sunk. There's an
I
insurance
read something
conspiracy too
about it
that
that
tackles
they like painted an old ship that was once wrecked. Yeah,
they did. See, now we
Yeah.
know that you didn't watch that episode, but just the day we're recording it came out this morning, so you should watch it as soon as you're done
I
here.
was working.
But it would have been the Olympic. Yeah, that's what we covered in that
I
one.
was working.
You were working. Yeah, your boss probably didn't allow you to. Um, so yeah, so it was the Olympic that was
It
one of the
might be, of
conspiracies as
course, it
well.
might
But
be. But
the
the
reason that
thing is, who could have won him? Well, since he was a lawyer, it's probably
you can make
yeah,
a lot of enemies as
yeah,
a lawyer,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
if you're a very
totally.
prolific one. And
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I brought up the Titanic and the Federal Reserve is because it once those people were eliminated within a year, the Federal Reserve was passed, right? And so I think people, when money is involved or power is involved, people go to great lengths to either attain that or retain that. Two separate things there. And I don't think, based on the Mayday calls, that's the most mysterious part to me, and the fact that you can't unlock any information. Everything, the book is shut. The keys are seem to
Yeah,
be tossed away.
That's the
That
weird
to
part.
me, yeah, that to me strikes a
it's like
bigger
a red flag,
conspiracy
right?
than the mystery.
Yeah.
Huge red flag. Now, maybe we've just been looking in the wrong place this whole time, right? Maybe just like your family found out what happened and it
And
really
they
wasn't that
covered
dramatic,
it.
and they
It's
realized, oh shit,
probable,
well, maybe they
totally
covered up, but maybe they
possible.
also just found out like, oh, well, we just blew all this money and it was like, he just was drunk flying or something, right? And they just buried it and they just didn't want to talk about it because it wasn't what they
Yeah, no one
expected.
wants
And
to
they just
hear
rather
a
him.
story about a family story about a drunk pilot or something.
Drunk.
Right. Like, you don't want to hear that it was like negligence. Maybe it was a suicide, right? And you don't want to hear about a suicide. He just made all that Mayday stuff up.
Kamikaze
And the
style,
reason
like
Aruba
I'm gonna
couldn't find
crash
him.
this plane
Yeah.
with all people.
Exactly. We don't know. And there are a lot of possibilities as to why that could have happened. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's probably the most fascinating part. Is there's somebody that has that wealth and has that power. I don't know. I would definitely chase down that Aruba lead, and perhaps we can do a follow up at some point. You can tell
I
us
will
that we
keep
got the tapes
insisting.
and we
I'm a
listen to the tapes
journalist.
live and
I
stuff
have
like
no
that.
shame. I will keep insisting. Wanna talk? Wanna
That's
talk to
it.
me? Wanna
We'll
talk?
create an entry for Gonzalo right on our website. We'll be the one to catalog them.
Sure thing. But I'm going to insist to I don't know, maybe a part two. And I also heard there is some sort of Bermuda Triangle in I don't know if in Lake Michigan or Lake Superior. Have you heard about it?
I've heard.
Yes,
Go ahead, Tim, because
I
I'm not
have.
too sure
I don't
about it.
remember the details, and I don't even remember exactly which lake it is, but it's ringing a bell. I have heard of that, more specifically involving maritime incidents, so ships, if I remember
Mm,
correctly. But I have heard of that, yeah.
That's another they sink there, but they cannot be recovered ever because of the
Hmm.
temperatures of the water and such.
right, it gets
Yeah,
very cold, I
and the
guess.
Super
bodies
cold
are
over there, dude.
Pressure or
Yeah,
there,
something.
perfectly preserved. It's
That's
yeah.
disgusting. You
I
just
would love
imagine
to
that,
see
like
it.
it's
I'm
just
not
like
gonna lie.
you got the. I'm not. No way. You just like
Would you
swim down
take?
there one day and like a fully fucking frozen body comes flying up.
And
Oh,
the people
Would you?
actually
Would
they
you
go
take?
they say I'm going to the beach and it's a lake, and I'm like, something doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, that's not
No,
a
that's
beach.
not a
yeah.
beach.
That's
Those are
not a
people
beach.
that never. Those are people that don't live on a coast, Vicky. Those are people that don't understand what a beach really is.
We're gonna piss off like a lot of like most of the country
That's
of the U.S. that are watching this, but
not
that's
a
not a
beach.
fucking beach.
That's not a beach. No,
And
no.
they just like go and have a good time there, and there are, I don't know, more than 300 corpses down there. I don't find it like that funny.
Yeah, that's
Because
freaky.
let me go scuba diving.
That's
No,
freaky.
not my thing.
No,
If you
you
could
and
take
Nicole.
one of those subs that they took down to go see the Titanic, the one, well, maybe one that was more well constructed, one that's not gonna, crush like a tin can. Would you do it?
What?
Would you take if you could get on a submarine and go down
Totally.
into that lake to go check out some of those wrecks? Would you do it? You would do
If
it. You're
if it's
sick.
not that
Get out. I'm out
submarine
for
that
that.
just like imploded. Whoop. No, no, no. I don't want to. I want a professional one, not like Nintendo or Xbox control one. No, not my thing.
I'd be too claustrophobic,
I
dude.
Um,
would
I couldn't
love
do
it.
it. I like to
well,
think that I could do it, but I know
I
I
would
wouldn't
no
do
do
it.
chance.
it.
I don't
Absolutely no
even
chance.
like to fly because I feel claustrophobic. Like I have no control over it. I couldn't imagine being in a tin can
Really?
going 200 feet under the water. No
I
way.
prefer I
I'm out.
prefer
See you
like
later.
narrow, short spaces, since I'm short, not so thin, but short, than in a very open space full of people. That's when I start to panic. I prefer closed places. I could live in a submarine, like away from everyone. I would love that. And I would definitely do, I don't know, a tour around the Titanic, around the sinks of Lake Superior. I would totally do it. Even in the Bermuda Triangle. Do you want to die there? Yeah,
Well,
hell
so that was going
yeah.
to be my question to you, Vicky. That was actually going to be my question to you as we kind of bring this home a little bit is would you, if given the opportunity, go on some sort of an expedition into the Bermuda
Totally.
Triangle in the height of it? I'm saying just do a full sail around that and try to find
Totally.
some. You'd be in for it.
Totally. I would do it.
Would you find like one of those, or I guess your daughter? Would you bring your daughter with you to see if she has any
I wouldn't bring
premonitions on
my
the way?
daughter because if I die, it's okay.
Good
But
mom.
Fair,
my
fair,
Good
fair.
baby
mom.
isn't going to go through that. No way. No, my daughter not. My daughter's out of the question until she has 18. When she's 18, she can come. I'm starting to plan it.
Fair enough.
uh,
Would you travel the Bermuda Triangle, Shane?
I mean, I have, right? I mean, I've flown over it. I guess I
You've flown
haven't
over it,
flown
right?
directly. Yeah, I've flown over it multiple times, going through the Caribbean and whatnot. You always actually kind of cross there. I've actually been to Bermuda.
Would you sail through it?
Shockingly, what's that?
Would you sail through it? Would you have any more reservations sailing through it?
It's a good question. So I've never really been on a cruise ship at all, especially to that degree. I don't know that I'm a big cruise ship guy. I've never
Yeah.
done it, so I can't say that for sure. So I think the fact that I probably won't choose to go on a cruise ship as like a vacation would probably exclude me from actually going through the triangle itself. But I don't know, man. I was when I went to Bermuda, I actually expected there to be a lot more pizzazz about the triangle, and it was
Mm.
borderline non-existent. In fact, the only thing that I can find that even said the word triangle was Bermuda Triangle Brewing Company, and I just snagged like a pint glass because I
Interesting.
like to always grab them where I get it. But they
Yeah.
kind of like downplay that a lot, so I think it's a little bit of a sore subject for them. I mean, you talk to the taxi cab drivers and they kind of give you like the spiel, but I think it's sort of a sore
Yeah.
subject there. They're very religious over there. I mean, they shut everything down on Sundays. I mean, the towns
Uh-huh.
are shut down. So
Oh,
Yeah.
I
God.
don't know. What about yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem doing it. I mean,
A lot
dude,
of,
it's a
lot of
very heavily
bravery here.
trafficked area. Listen, we've already discussed. I'm not a huge fan of flying. Fuck cruise ships,
Right.
dude. Not for me. So the event of my doing either one of those things is slim. Not that I won't fly. I just
Right.
prefer not to do it. Um, But yeah, I wouldn't. Other than me not liking those activities, I
Right.
wouldn't have any issue with going to that place. You know what I mean? It's such a heavily trafficked area, and when you look at the amount of ships and or planes that are actually traveling through there, and
Hmm.
then you do the math compared to the tragedies that do occur.
Hmm.
Granted, it's anomalous. It certainly happens more there than anywhere else, but it's still pretty low. I would do it.
Yeah,
But
that's another thing, the
yeah,
statistics. I mean, it's odd.
right.
It's kind of
Yeah.
I love flying. I mean, I love planes. I would love to go.
You love flying. You're a sicko. You're a sicko. You love being in a tin can in the air with
Yeah,
no control over it. Great
Tim
I
for
really
you.
feel I
doesn't like
feel very
flying. He's very
comfortable
nervous.
in a plane actually.
Oh, I hate it. I do it. I suffer through it, but I
Oh, I
hate it.
love it. I freaking love it. And I was going to ask if when you're going over the Bermuda Triangle Zone, does the pilot say
Yep.
something?
No, they usually
Oh,
don't. They're not
Buckle
gonna.
up, bitches. We're going
how
through the Bermuda
boring. It
Triangle.
would be super
Yeah, your
funny
pilots aren't normally
to
gonna
see the
put on
reaction
it.
of the people like,
So
whoa.
I think with the ships and with planes, it's like you're usually traveling the edges of the. I mean, every time you go to the Bahamas or really any Caribbean island from the United States, you're going through the Bermuda Triangle. Miami to Puerto Rico is the Bermuda Triangle. It's the bottom portion of it, right?
Right.
So you're not really going around it. But I think those trafficked areas, when they say the triangle, I think that's just more because that's like a point of interest that they can point out. I think a lot of like the anomalous stuff probably happens towards the center or like the north in like the areas where there isn't a
Okay.
lot of land. And I think those are the less trafficked areas. So the plane flights, I mean, they're literally going along the coast of the United States and then into the Caribbean islands. It's not like you're going even, I mean, I guess if you go from Bermuda to Puerto Rico or Miami or some of the Caribbean, then you're
Yeah,
going
because
through
you
the
go
heart of it.
through
I
the
don't know. Maybe we're going to
triangle.
have, you're going
Right. If
right
you're like
through the
island
dead
hopping.
center. You're not generally getting that anywhere else. Maybe the Carolinas, depending. I guess the trajectory might hit it, but yeah, it's they're. One thing I learned about planes, especially in today's days, they're not going to say anything to put you uneasy. So you just have
Yeah.
to kind of look at the little map that they give you and
Boring.
just sort of put two and
I
two
couldn't
together
be a
for you there.
pilot.
Um,
I would be like, hey, down there, you can see the Bermuda Triangle.
check this out. This is where a bunch
That
of
would be
planes
my
get lost
hell.
every year.
I'm the pilot from hell.
So Vicky, I'm going to give you a couple. I'm going to give you a couple quick ones here, and it's just kind of to bring us in and set the stage a little bit with some of your conspiracies and your where your mind is. Is it more likely that there are parallel worlds or that time travel exists?
That was with Tim or with me?
It's for you. These are all for you.
Okay,
Rapid
I
fire
think
questions.
both.
You can give me context or you can give me none. It's up to you.
I think both are possible.
Which one do you think is more likely?
Other universes. What was what you said besides time traveling?
It's a
Oh,
lot of thought there, Vicky.
It's going to be a heavy editing session for you.
Nah, those are easy edits.
I hate Venezuela.
There she is. All right, we lost that whole thing. I said, which one do you think is more likely?
Oh, it was, wait, it was time travel and portals? No.
Parallel
Parallel
world.
worlds. Totally. Yeah, I do
Think
believe
parallel
it.
worlds. Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
I like it.
Ghosts.
I think
Do you think that
their
ghosts?
energy.
Hold on. Okay. Well, that was my question: is are they more likely to be spiritual or like another frequency, maybe in like a
I think
multiverse?
since energy can't be destroyed but transformed only, not created, not transformed, not destroyed but transformed. I think when you die, the energy that is within you, because you need energy to live, basically to do everything, just changes and goes in another into another form, or I don't know. So yeah, I do believe it. I think those are energy thingies. I don't know.
I like it.
Thingies was a perfect example.
Energy
Energy
thingies,
thingies.
of
I'm a fan.
course. I hear things moving and I
So, I
see
mean,
things moving here in my room. So
right. Do you think it's like the energy
someone,
of
oh,
the deceased affecting?
here, I'm in my room right now, but here in my room, my aunt passed away.
Oh, geez. So you got a lot of energy floating through there. Is this the ant that didn't like
Huh?
you? Is this the ant that didn't like you that had the
I don't, yeah,
premonitions?
no, her aunt. That was like
Okay.
my
Okay.
grandma. My grandma died before I was
Got
born.
it.
So my grand aunt, does that exists in the States?
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
Great
was
Yeah, yeah,
aunt.
yeah.
like the
Oh,
grandma I couldn't meet. And she died right beside, well, back there.
wow. Okay.
Tell her I said hello.
Hi there. Hi, Tita. Now everything sudden,
Well,
all of
that's,
a sudden something moves and you're gonna hear me scream.
we're gonna see it like the editing the footage. Somebody's waving in the back. Actually, I kind of see some. I'm getting chills now. Over your, I guess from my side, your right shoulder. I guess it
Oh,
would be your
poor.
left shoulder. It looks like there's a little eye open through there. Um, so that segues really well into my next question: is do you believe in reincarnation? Is reincarnation true, or do you just go into a ball of energy and you go to heaven or hell?
Oh, well, since I don't believe in God, I don't know exactly what's my position towards reincarnation. I think it's possible because
Okay.
it's energy that can just be in another body. Why not? And I know you have had to experience this, like some sort of memories you have, but you don't know where they come from. I've thought that
Yep.
could be some past lives memories or genetic
Yeah. It's a
memory.
very common theory. Actually.
That's
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
also a possibility. But I have like
Yeah.
my inner battle with that topic of reincarnation, heaven and hell. I don't believe in that. I mean,
Okay.
I think hell is on earth.
Very feasible.
There's a lot of hell on here. I agree.
Yeah, some days I question. Um, if you had the opportunity, would you rather go back to a point in the past or go to any point in the
Future.
future?
Totally future.
Okay.
Why would I go to the
Not even a
past?
hesitation.
No, the past is past. I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Leave it there.
Ancient Egypt.
No, 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 no,
I don't
no.
know.
I don't want to go back to
Um,
my past. No.
not your past, any past
Oh, I
point in
could be
history.
like wherever.
Anywhere you want, the
Wherever. You
past or
name
the
it.
future. Would you rather go? You don't have to tell me where, but would you rather go somewhere in the past or somewhere in the future?
Oh,
Changes your perspective. I knew you answered that a little
yeah.
too quickly.
I think the past, but not
Okay.
that
Well, then
that
that
past very far away, but like the 60s. Yeah.
okay. Wow. Okay, that's not that
No,
far
but
away at
I would
all.
love to. I would have loved to go to Studio 54.
That's why you
Yeah.
want to go to the past to go to
I'm
Studio
so
54.
basic.
All you can
I
go
heard it
the
was a good
past.
time.
You can go right to the beginning of the creation to the end of the
No.
universe,
I
and
don't
you
want to be
decide to go to
eaten by
Studio
the
54.
dinosaur by a dinosaur or anything.
There we
No,
go,
no,
baby.
no, no. I want to party.
Studio 54. If that's not one hell of an endorsement for Studio 54, I don't know what is. Vicky, last question for you before we kind of bring things in. I mean, I'm floored by the Studio 54, so you kind of threw me off and even asked this question. But let's just set like a role play here, a little hypothetical. You walk into like a cavern. There sits like an orb with some mystical being that will give you the answer to anything, any question in the world. But you got one question you can ask it. It could be the identity of something. It could be the solving a mystery. It could be as simple as, who stole my keys last night? What's the question you ask them? What's the
I
answer that
want to
you want
know
to
if
know?
multiverses exist, like in
Okay,
Marvel.
I like it.
good
Multiverses.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always thought
Okay.
they
Like, was
exist.
the Spider Verse a real movie?
Right. Right. You don't think or you
I do
do?
think they do.
You do think. Okay. Listen, I know this is Well, I know it was definitely a challenge to try to dig up some of the information, so we appreciate it. And I know it's always kind of spooky getting on camera. You did awesome tonight. So
Thank
thank you
you
for
for
coming on,
inviting
sharing your
me.
family story. Of course, of
We
course.
You
appreciate you,
awesome
Vicky.
gentleman.
We seriously do. We seriously do. Those out there, I don't think you guys realize how much Vicky's actually doing behind the scenes with our social media,
A
with our
ton.
website. She's cranking out stories literally every single day. There's new content up there. And we've even talked about ways that we can even expand the stories that are up there and really put those journalistic tendencies to the test. So yeah, please do. If you ever see her around, post on social media, comment, like, subscribe on this channel because it matters. And your efforts on us, Vicky, are certainly not lost. So that brings us to our closing here. So as always, I got to finish it off with a sincerely overdone finish. So as the sun sets on tonight's journey into the enigmatic waters of the Bermuda Triangle, we just thank you again for tuning into Conspiracy Realist. From tales of vanished ships to the mysteries that still ripple through the Atlantic, tonight's exploration with our guest has reminded us that the world holds more secrets than the stars in our sky. So remember, when it's silent and there's a mayday from the depths of the quiet hum of an uncharted current, keep questioning and keep wandering. Join us next time as we unravel another thread and of the unseen, I should say. Until then, keep your eyes on the horizons and your thoughts in the realm of possibilities. We are the Conspiracy Realists. Good night and keep the spirit of inquiry alive. So long, everybody.